Okay.
There we go.
Recording.
Okay.
Hopefully our person will return momentarily. Go ahead, Jen.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us on this afternoon. We know that with holidays coming up and as you get ready, maybe to get ready for your study abroad program or as you're planning to travel abroad, we appreciate you joining us for the day. I'm Jenna Luganbill, and I'm joined with my colleague, Nora, and we will be sharing all about some tips and tricks for first-time travelers with SSA today. This is a little overview. We're going to go over a lot of different things from getting a passport to customs to packing tips and tricks. So you'll learn a lot today. And of course, we'll have time at the end for questions too. But to get started, of course, many of you are already at a point in the process where you have a passport and you're good to go. But for students that are joining us that are maybe just interested about traveling abroad for the first time in general, we wanted to include a little bit of information to start just about getting your passport. So make sure to check the us.gov website for all updated information as it refers to the timeline for processing and fees, as this is where all of the most updated information will be. But as you go to get a passport for the first time or renew your passport, there are different processes you'll want to look at. And so just make sure you're doing the right thing. I know for me, I actually have to renew my passport now because it's going to expire in the next year and I have a trip in the next 6 months, and you need your passport to be valid for at least 6 months, if not a year after your travel dates end. So I definitely have to do that renewal via mail or online soon. So make sure that you have all of your ducks in a row so you're ready to go abroad. I do also just want to quickly highlight to check with your university. You never know if your campus has a passport office embedded either in your global education office or somewhere else on campus. And there are also often passport scholarships that I've seen at many of our partner institutions. And so with those scholarships, students who are applying as a first-time applicant for the passport could potentially get their entire passport fee funded. So check into those. I know that specifically there are, some of our universities that do this. So check with yours and see if there's anything there to support you. So you don't have to go to the post office, and maybe you can get that fee covered. And then, of course, we've shared the passport fees on here. So just again, recommend to check the website and make sure everything is up to date, as they are always subject to change.
So I imagine that for those of you who are already accepted to an SSA program, maybe you've already purchased your flight, maybe you haven't, but we wanted to share some flight booking tips, either for your flight to your program destination, or even if you want to do any traveling while you're actually, on site. These are just some important things to keep in mind. Here are some search engines that we recommend for searching for flights. Skyscanner, I believe that's what Jenna uses. I'm a big Google Flights gal, but they're both fairly comparable in terms of the services that they're able to provide. Expedia, Priceline, Kayak are also great options in order to compare the most affordable options. And some of you may or may not know this, but one thing that I really like about using these flight search engines versus looking directly at an airline website is that you can search for the most affordable day to travel. You can also search by the most affordable destination. So say that you're going to Spain next semester and you're thinking to yourself, ooh, I really want to travel somewhere next weekend, but I don't know where to go. Actually on Google Flights and on Skyscanner, there is an option to say everywhere, or say Europe, or say Spain, and it will show you all of the different flight options, filtering by price. And so if you're open-minded and you see a cheap flight to London for 50 euros, then guess you're going to London next weekend, So that's one of my favorite travel hacks. If you're more open-minded in terms of where you want to travel on the weekends during your program, that's a great option to use for Skyscanner and Google Flights. You can also set alerts as well. So if you haven't booked your flight yet to your program destination, or if you have a specific destination in mind, but you are kind of waiting for the price to lower, you can set an alert and you'll get a notification when that flight is a little bit cheaper than you had originally seen. Additionally, we recommend booking directly with your airline. So on Google Flights, for example, if you find a flight that works for you, automatically Google Flights will take you to the airline's website to book. It's just better to book through the airline versus a third-party provider because it's easier to change, it's easier for refunds, and just having that confirmation with the airline makes your travel journey a lot smoother. Across the board, though, for SSA programs, we do not recommend that you book your flight until you've been accepted to your program. We just want to make sure that you're 100% confirmed to go before you make any specific travel plans. And we always recommend as well booking flexible and refundable tickets, just in case, your plans change for whatever reason. Maybe there's, you experience something personal in your life. You don't want to end up being stuck. What's the word I'm looking for? Being out, $500 by, not booking a refundable flexible ticket. Usually it's only like $100 more or so, something like that. So it's definitely worth it to take that route. Additionally, we do sometimes encounter students who are interested in arriving early to a program or departing late. And this is sometimes an option. Make sure to consult with SSA Student Services team, though, before you book your flight that way. There can be reasons why you cannot do this, including visa dates. For example, depending on your flight options, you may not be able to arrive before your program if your visa doesn't start until a certain date. Say that you don't have a visa and you're on a under 90-day program, you may not be able to stay late in your program destination just because of overstaying the 90 days that you're allowed to stay in the EU. So again, if you have any questions about that, feel free to let us know, but also speak with your SSA Student Services advisor. Also, just a side note, if any of you all do think of questions, feel free to put anything in the chat. We won't address them until the end of the presentation, but feel free to put anything there if you're worried about forgetting anything.
Thank you so much for that, Nora. Great reminder. Excuse me. So now we're on to kind of the logistics of travel. So when it comes to navigating TSA or customs, a really big caveat that I want to share with you all is that every single airport is going to be a little different. I was in 3 different airports just in the last 48 hours, and every single one of them has a little bit of kind of their own way about doing TSA and what their process looks like. It's standard for a lot of different regulations. It's just that, there are some agents or there are some airports where you might be asked to take off your shoes or your belt. There are others that you can leave everything in your bag and you don't have to worry. Really depends on the facilities, the machines they have. But we recommend following the TSA guidelines on their website for packing, making sure that you have everything in an appropriate size, in the appropriate bags, and not bringing anything that you can't. Definitely look at also your host country's regulations for things you can bring into the country and not. Just make sure you don't have anything there that you're not supposed to be bringing with you. And then really as it goes through TSA, it's not a race. Many of us do like to think that we get a prize if we're the quickest through TSA, but that's not the case. There's nothing waiting for you at the end of that line other than your flight. So take your time, listen to the TSA agents. There's a lot of, maybe there's a lot of fear about TSA agents because some of them might not be the most cheery people, but definitely think about the high quantity of travelers coming through and how many times they probably say, take your shoes off in a day. So lead with kindness. If you have questions, ask them. If you're confused, let them know, but really they're just there to get you through and get everyone safely into the airport and to their gates. If you are subject to further search, whether it's due to randomization in the machine or something's found on the scanner, you can request a more private space and you can request a specific TSA agent. So make sure to advocate for yourself in this if you need to, just so you know how to be prepared as you go through. With customs, something I really recommend is keeping your travel documents easily accessible and together. What I have had when I've moved abroad and when I studied abroad, both times, was a folder with copies of my passport, acceptance letter to my program, the address I was staying at, my health insurance, all sorts of different logistical documents that would be helpful to me in the case of a question I get asked and I need to provide proof of something. You shouldn't need to provide, tons of documents outside of your passport, visa, and things like that. But there are times that you get asked for something additional or you get asked a question. And these are just things from my personal experience that I would recommend being prepared with. Something on top of that too is in the past, I've been asked the name of my university or where I was studying. So for students on our programs, know the name of your institution in Spanish. If it's La Universidad de Sevilla, know that, because then you can share that with your the customs agent you're working with, and they'll know where you're going. I also recommend having the address of where you're staying easily accessible. This is both helpful for you when you arrive and you need to, if you have to find your way independently. We do airport pickup on our program, so that shouldn't be a worry for you. But just having that address easily accessible so you know where you're going is also helpful. And just be friendly, answer the questions they ask you. They're not trying to like grill you, but it's their job to make sure that you're coming in, according to their regulations and that you're following the procedures you need to. So we just want you to be prepared. Nora, I don't know if you have anything to add to on top of that with other countries you've been in and out of, if there's anything else you've seen with customs different, but those are kind of some of my experiences.
I think you covered it fantastically, Jenna. Thank you. So next we want to go over some apps that are going to be really helpful for your time abroad. Well, and not just for your semester abroad, but if you're doing any sort of traveling in your future on your program, these are all really helpful to have under your belt. The first I'm going to recommend, not in order here, is WhatsApp. If you do not know what WhatsApp is, you need to get it downloaded. Well, I'll tell you what it is. But if you do not already have WhatsApp downloaded, you need to do it right now, because WhatsApp is the premier messaging app all over the world. I will tell you, as someone who has traveled to almost 40 countries, I have yet to go to a country where WhatsApp is not the reigning, app that people use. People don't use iMessenger. People don't use the messaging app on their phone. People message on WhatsApp. And, we're actually going to create WhatsApp groups for your programs before you arrive. So that way you can, have our resident director's contact information. You can have the contact information of your classmates, and you'll use that group quite a lot while you are traveling abroad, while you're on our program, for cultural activities, for reminders, for, information that you may need. But anyway, what is WhatsApp? What makes it different from just my normal messaging app? What's different about it is that it doesn't use data, it uses Wi-Fi. And so that's why I first downloaded it when I traveled abroad, because I wanted to stay in touch with my family and friends while I was abroad. And when I traveled abroad back in the day, I had to get a SIM card in my host country. And so I couldn't use my US phone number, which meant that I couldn't text my family and friends on a normal messaging app. And so WhatsApp came in handy because I could text them, call them. You can do voice memos now. You can do video memos. So it's a great way to keep in touch with all of your friends and family back home. But again, it's going to serve as also the primary form of communication with your resident director, with other students on your program, with your host family, even while you are abroad. So again, definitely download WhatsApp soon if you have not already, because you will be needing it on our program. But some other apps that you might want to keep in mind are, the first one I'll highlight here is Airalo. It's an eSIM app. If you don't know what an eSIM is, it basically allows you to purchase an electronic SIM card for wherever you want to travel. You may not need to do this on our program. Maybe you have an international plan through your American provider. I use T-Mobile, and T-Mobile provides unlimited data, low-speed data, pretty much anywhere in the world. So in which case you may not need to have a country-specific phone plan, but our team are also available once you arrive on site to help you navigate that and purchase a local SIM card if you need. However, if you're worried about not having service when you first land, or just want to have that extra security blanket, Airalo is a great app to use. Basically, you can purchase a SIM card for a certain amount of data or a certain amount of time, and it just is right on your phone. You don't need to pick up any sort of physical SIM card or anything. I've used it in Asia. I've used it in Europe. You can buy like an EU specific plan as well, so that you can use it in multiple different countries. And it's a really great resource for your travels. Next, Airbnb. I'm sure most of you are already knowledgeable about Airbnb. It's a great option if you're looking for affordable accommodation while you're studying abroad, while you're traveling on the weekends, or just in your future travels. Airbnb is a great option in many different destinations, but I highly recommend considering accommodation options across the board, whether it's a hotel or a hostel or an Airbnb. But Airbnbs can be very popular among our students who are looking to travel in groups and want to stay with their friends. Airbnb also offers an experiences section. So if you're interested in doing some sort of cultural activity like a cooking class or a dancing class on your own while you're studying abroad, Airbnb is a great place to find those opportunities. Okay, I'll try to get through the rest of these apps quickly. TriCount is an app that I've used to split expenses with someone. If I'm traveling with my friends, you can basically keep track of expenses rather than individually Venmoing everyone after you pay for someone's dinner. You can create a group in TriCount so that you're continually keeping track of shared expenses. XE Currency is a currency conversion app. It's just super helpful to have that so that you are aware of, the conversion of euro to US dollars, or if you're doing any sort of traveling British pound to US dollars. And then maps.me is the last recommendation that we have here. It's a maps app. If you have a Google or Apple Maps, that's great. But maps.me is great because you can use it offline, and also is more accurate in some cases than Google Maps. I know I've used Google Maps in some countries and I've been walking around and I'm like, this does not know where I am. Like, I don't know. Google Maps is not going to get me to my destination. And that's where maps.me really comes in and saves the day. So if you want to have another resource for navigating the city, maps.me is a great one to download.
And one thing, especially for iPhone users, the XE Currency app, it's really great, but also your calculator app actually converts stuff right in it. So you can just use that as well if you don't want a separate app for any iPhone users. I'm not sure if other mobile devices have the same capability. I would assume so. But that's something that's kind of been newly added to the iPhone calculator. These are specifically apps for Spain. City Mapper is helpful for mapping public transit. If you've never used it before, this can help you figure out which line to take to which stop. Ryanair is a budget airline, so basically the frontier of Europe. Ouigo, Iryo, and Renfe are all train apps within Spain, so you can use those to book tickets from all sorts of different cities. Ouigo, I really recommend, especially for our students going to Alicante, because you can get round trip tickets from Alicante to other cities in Spain for like 15 euros a person. Flixbus, similar, but it's for buses. So you can take buses all within, the country, but also to other countries. When I studied abroad in England, I took, I took a Flixbus from London to Amsterdam, London to Paris. So you can take them even across the channel, which is fun. But yeah, really great budget. I went to so many places for less than like a dinner here in the US. Cabify and FreeNow are both equivalent to like Uber and Lyft. So just nice transit apps. FreeNow I really like because it's kind of, it's all over Spain and really easy and reliable to use. You can use it and book through the app, but you can also get rides like a normal cab and just kind of like hail someone too. So this can be really helpful. Hostel World is so great. You can book many different hostels right from here. You can see tons of reviews. I used this almost any time I traveled somewhere during my study abroad. And it can be just a really great way to find budget places to stay, but that are also safe and still good for you to use. So make sure that you're vetting everything appropriately on any of these apps, of course. Wallapop is just a nice way to get like used items. So if you need, if you want some clothing or if you want something else, but you don't want to have to buy brand new, maybe contribute to a little bit of sustainability and also save yourself some money. This is a great app. Glovo is similar to like Uber Eats, DoorDash, so you can order food to wherever you are. And then Too Good To Go, we do have this in the US as well, but it's not in all cities. And so for those that aren't familiar, this is a really great app that you can go to different local restaurants and grocery stores, and they'll have like a bag of goodies of food and stuff that's just like what they can't sell at the end of the day. It's all still good to eat, but they're selling it to you at like a very discounted price. So when I was living in Spain, we would go to like the sushi restaurants a lot and get this because you could get like a whole bag of sushi for maybe 10 euros or something. And so lots of really great ways. Also helps, get rid of a little bit of food waste. And then Mi Correos is just a nice way to track any incoming or outgoing mail that you might be sending through the post in Spain.
So to close out our conversation on apps, now that you probably have completely depleted your phone storage, we have just a few more to recommend that are translator and Spanish language apps. Again, you probably already have quite a few of these on your phone, including Google Translate. But DeepL is an alternative to Google Translate that often has more accurate translations than Google Translate. I really like this app called Conjugato that basically allows you to practice your Spanish conjugations. And so I know sometimes when I'm like sitting around waiting for a flight or something, or on the metro, on the bus, I'll just open this app and quiz myself on, conditional verb conjugations or the subjunctive verb conjugations, things like that. So it's a really great tool to keep practicing. Spanish Dict and Word Reference are great like dictionary apps. Word Reference, I know I personally use a lot, and they usually have different translations depending on, the country where you're studying. For example, if you're studying in Spain, the word may be different from if you're studying in Argentina. And so often they'll have the distinction on Word Reference. And so it's just good to have these in your back pocket in case you need any sort of assistance with your Spanish while you're on the go and you can't come up with a word right off the top of your head.
Yeah, that's awesome. Packing tips. Now we've got a few different slides on packing. So to kind of preface it all, we know that everyone has their own packing preferences. So pack how you want, yourself best, pack well. But kind of our tips from being experienced travelers who have lived abroad multiple times and in many different countries, these are kind of our overarching recommendations. Pack lighter than you think. If there's something you can live without, or if there's something you can't live without, bring it. But other than that, there are a lot of things that you may not need. For me, I feel like I always bring way too many clothes that I'm not going to wear. I remember for my study abroad, I brought like a pair of heels because I was told to have a nice pair of shoes. I did not wear heels my entire semester. I was studying in England because it was rainy and there are cobblestone streets, and that is not a good equation for success walking around town. But of course, we all are different. So again, bring the things you need. Something I do always recommend too is there are things that you may not need to bring because you can buy them there and you're not going to necessarily need something specific. And if you forget something, there are stores outside of the US. You can absolutely, buy those things there. For me personally, I'm very lucky I don't have super sensitive skin or hair or anything where I can kind of change out my products and buy new stuff when I go to a new place. But that's not true for everyone. So, make sure you bring the stuff that you need. And if you have something that's particular, bring it. But again, you can buy things there. Check the weather. A lot of students maybe are not aware that seasons are flipped in some of our destinations. And in others, the weather may not be what you're used to. It might be a different climate than what you're accustomed to back in the US. And so getting a little bit well-versed in what you can expect for weather will help you pack a little bit better. Layers are the number one recommendation. Layering up will, one, help you stay comfortable, kind of your entire time, but also really make sure that you have kind of versatile clothing for different seasons, different temperatures, because, even though I will say I'm from Wisconsin, I live in Wisconsin now, typically at this time of year, we're pretty cold, have a lot of snow. That hasn't been the case. So again, know that it can change too, so you might want to be prepared. For homestay students, you do have a laundry service that you get weekly. So know that you do not need to bring 4 months worth of clothing. You will have access to laundry, and you can do this every week, every other week. And we do also recommend for homestay students, maybe saving room for a small little gift, a token of appreciation for your host family as you come into their home and get ready to spend, a semester or a January program or something like that with them. I kind of already mentioned the toiletries, but save room in your suitcase. If you don't need a full bottle of shampoo, we do not need to be bringing a full-size bottle. You can save yourself some weight in your suitcase and lots of space. So leave the things you can at home. You're going to be there for long enough that it is justified to buy some of those things. What I do recommend, though, is, again, brands and recipes of products can differ from country to country. So bring things if you're particular with them. We don't want you to think that just because there's this exact, same brand that's offered in Spain or another location, that it's going to be your same product. So just bring what you need. For your personal item in your backpack, we'll have it kind of broken down in a second, but just keep those medications, toiletries, extra outfit, all of those extra good things in that backpack, as well as those documents I mentioned earlier, kind of those to keep for customs. Keep those in that separate personal item. That way you have access to them throughout your entire journey. Your medications, also keep this in your original container with any necessary documentation you need. And then, of course, adapters, keep this accessible while you're traveling. Usually in the airports, it's easier to find connectors for USB and different types of outlets like that. But having an adapter available while you're traveling is nice just for ease in case you don't know what you're going to find. Now we're going to go into our lovely kind of sample packing list.
Absolutely. So this is our recommended packing list for personal items / carry-ons. One thing to note is, again, as Jenna said, everyone has their own personal preferences. So this is not like an exact recipe. Feel free to pick and choose things that you think are relevant to you. Also, when you all have your pre-departure orientations in the coming weeks and months, you'll receive more information about that soon from our student services team. They will also give a more specific packing list recommendation for your destination because, as Jenna said, weather is very different from destination to destination. Items that are very available are different from destination to destination. So this is just kind of an overview of recommendations that we suggest. So specifically, this is what we recommend to bring with you in your personal items / carry-on, the items that you want to keep with you on your person as you're traveling, whether that's traveling across the Atlantic to go to Spain for the semester, or whether that's doing a weekend trip somewhere else. These are good items just to keep handy with you. One thing to keep in mind as well that we did not mention earlier is that personal items and carry-ons are not always included in your plane ticket. So make sure to double check that. Don't just assume that you can bring on your small roller bag carry-on. You definitely want to verify that with airlines because not all airlines include those. And that goes for when you are traveling in your host destination as well. Jenna talked about Ryanair, an airline infamous for only allowing a personal item, which is typically going to be no bigger than a backpack. So keep that in mind as you're planning your travels. But in general, here are just some items that we do recommend keeping with you on your person. For example, one of the most important things is an extra change of clothes. Of course, the chances of you losing your large suitcase are relatively low. However, it has happened to me several times, and it probably will happen again. And I know I was very grateful in those moments to have an extra pair of socks, some extra undergarments, an extra pair of pants. And so this is one of my top recommendations. Honestly, even if you don't lose your luggage, it's just really nice to get off of an 8-hour plane and have something else to change into after sitting and marinating in your clothes for 8 hours in a giant moving metal tube. So I recommend bringing extra clothes just for that reason as well. But again, Jenna already mentioned carrying your medications with you. Again, especially if they are medications that you take on a daily basis, you don't want your luggage to get lost and you not to be without those for a long period of time. Your passport, your visa, as well as those travel documents and photocopies, you want to keep all of that with you. Your wallet, again, seems common sense, but double check, make sure that your wallet is with you in your personal item. Of course, headphones, phone charger, power bank. Another thing I want to highlight is if you're bringing your laptop, do not put it in your checked bag. My sister once had her suitcase ran over by like a well, I don't know, like one of those like airport luggage carts, and it completely shattered her laptop and ruined everything in her bag. So If you don't want that to happen to you, again, on the very slim chance that will happen to you, make sure to carry anything important, anything that you're worried about losing or getting damaged with you in your personal item. You're also more than welcome to bring any sort of like toiletries, as long as they are the travel size under the 3.4 ounces or whatever it is. I know I like to have those on me. I wear contacts, so I usually take them off before I get on the plane, and then I put my glasses on. Water bottle, if you like to carry around a reusable water bottle, as well as any entertainment you might want to use on the plane, whether those are headphones, though you will get those on by your from the flight attendants if you're traveling on a plane that has in-flight entertainment. I never go anywhere without my Kindle. This is just a very like helpful travel hack in general. If you're someone who likes to read, Kindles have changed the game for me. I never thought that I would be a Kindle user. I always thought I would use physical books, but if you travel a lot, it's so convenient to have just that small device with you rather than lugging around multiple books. So definitely recommend looking into that if you don't already have one. And then here are just some other like general recommendations, like more kind of personal to us, but chapstick, I love chapstick. I always have some sort of lip balm or lip gloss, so it's great to have that on hand. Again, you can of course buy this in your host destination at the airport, but if you want to save some money and bring what you like, bring it with you. Lotion, wet wipes, snacks as well. Also double check with your airline that they provide a meal service. Most transatlantic and long distance airlines do. I know Iceland Air, for example, does not. I flew with Iceland Air and they do not provide meals. You can pay for one, but there's going to be an upcharge if you pay when you're on the flight. And then, of course, any medications, as we mentioned, if you're someone who could, need something like Dramamine, a motion sickness medication while you're flying, it's a great idea to put that in. And a sweatshirt and a sweater. It gets freezing on these planes. They usually do have a little blanket, but bringing layers, as Jenna suggested, is the way to go.
Yeah, that's always, no matter how many times I fly, I swear I'm always cold still. Now, this is for your checked bag. Of course, this is a lot of stuff. So this is what you're going to be bringing for the bulk of your program. So I'm really not going to go through each individual item, as it's going to differ for each student, but generally, I recommend bringing about enough clothes for like 2 weeks, because that gives you, a lot of different options that are a little bit more versatile, and really helps you kind of mix and match to maximize your space in your baggage, and just making sure that you're bringing, everything you need to. With the toiletries, I already kind of, brought up the full size soaps, conditioners, things like that. So really personally, I would recommend avoid bringing full size anything if you're going for a semester. You're going to just thank yourself having that space. But if you bring it and then you use it while you're there and you don't bring it home, you're saving yourself some space for maybe some souvenirs and fun things you picked up along the way. I do also want to highlight too, this is usually something we cover in our pre-departure orientation, but because we're talking about packing, make sure that you bring anything you need for your like sexual health hygiene products. Menstrual products can be again, like I said, same brands potentially, but size of things and kind of materials can differ. So bring what you need to keep yourself healthy and successful the whole time. I really personally also just recommend reading different travel blogs, watching videos, doing more research again about your host destination and where you're going to be going to best inform your packing. For me, I really do like to kind of lean into, when I was living in Spain, I like to lean into kind of the European style of dress and blend in and wear a little bit more put together outfits. So I don't bring sweatshirts. I don't really bring sweatpants out. I have my workout clothes, but only for like the gym. So I like to do that, but you do not need to do that. So bring the clothes that you want to wear, bring the things that you want to do. But I think for me, when I read those blogs, it can kind of help me figure out what's a little bit better, to pack and what locals even recommend. Really, the only other thing that I kind of just want to emphasize through all of the packing is leave like your hair curlers, hair dryers, devices like that at home. If you're going to a country that has different outlets than the US, for example, Spain, if you bring a hair dryer or a hair curler or something like that, it's going to be fried immediately. It will your device will be destroyed, and you might even ruin the outlet that you're using. So do not do that. Just buy something there if you're going to do it, or buy something that's adaptable. I have a travel size like hair curler that I can use if I want, and it works with a bunch of different countries and different kind of outlets because the voltage is different. So you want to make sure that you're not frying your stuff and also not ruining the outlets of where you're staying. And then kind of just on the tab of outlets, converters, bring as many as you have devices. Make sure that you have, have kind of like well-made ones. Make sure that you're not skimping out on this, because depending on the adapter and converter, it really can affect the devices that you have, like your laptop and phone. So just keep everything working well while you're studying abroad.
So we have just a few more slides, and these are kind of more general, but just some general recommendations about before you go, before you travel abroad, some things to keep in mind. You want to research the fun things too. I know it's really easy to get swept up in the logistics and the difficult parts, the visa, the flights, but make sure that you have fun things to look forward to. I mean, I'm sure that you all have already done a little bit of this, just doing research on different, cafes you want to try, or museums you think you might want to check out. Or what I like to do personally is I create Google Maps lists when I'm traveling, and I'll like save a restaurant that looks good to me, or I'll save like a store that looks really fun, or a museum or something that's piqued my interest. And that way I'll have something to look forward to. I'll already have some ideas in mind before I travel abroad of the things that I want to do. And then you can just slowly, start checking that list. Or if you're like me, the list will grow forever larger. But again, you'll still, of course, make the most of your time abroad no matter what. So yeah, enjoy that part of it. If traveling is a fun thing, it's one of my biggest passions in life. That's why Jen and I are here today speaking to you, because we absolutely adore it and know that you're going to have the best experience possible. But let yourself get excited, and let yourself start to think about the really exciting aspects of studying abroad. We always recommend as well checking out different Facebook groups. If there are, for example, any specific like activities that you want to get involved with. We have students who sometimes get involved in sports or in music. You can either talk to our resident directors on site about how you can get involved in those things, or join a Facebook group or other types of groups. Even WhatsApp groups exist where you can find people who are like-minded and interested in similar things. So that way you can still keep up with your hobbies and interests while abroad. Although, of course, it's very likely that someone in your SSA cohort will also have those same interests. And so you can also go through that process with them as well. Kind of on the same note of like doing a little bit of research ahead of time to enjoy the fun of it and get yourself excited about what your host destination is like, we highly recommend looking into local influencers. As we all know, it's never been easier to learn about where you're studying abroad before you go there, thanks to TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, of course. So I always really like following along with local influencers. For example, if you're going to Sevilla, there is an influencer called Shelby in Sevilla who is an American who now lives full-time in Seville. She actually studied abroad in Seville and now has moved back and lives there permanently. And so it's really cool to hear from her perspective what it's like to live as an American in Sevilla, and see her recommendations and hear more about her experience. So I highly recommend looking into things like that. And then, as we kind of already shared, I always recommend speaking with the resident director or SSA staff about recommendations of things to do. Of course, all of our staff are locals and know the cities where you're going to be living very well. And so they can give you all kinds of recommendations for things that maybe you wouldn't have even thought of. Maybe you're looking for a gym to go to. They can guide you in the right direction. Maybe you're looking for a cool place to find matcha or something, which might be harder to come by, and depending on your destination, they can guide you that way as well. So lots of opportunities there to really, get to know where you're living and make the most of it. And of course, don't feel obligated to do any of this beforehand. You can absolutely go into the process relatively open-minded, but even once you're on site, there are plenty of opportunities to really, make the most of your experience.
And just a few kind of additional tips and tricks, especially for like your safety and to kind of maximize your time and make the most of it. We really recommend putting your best foot forward, researching the local language, customs, traditions, and knowing a little bit more about where you're going is going to be very helpful. I always love to ask students, do you know who the president is of the country you're going to? And do they even have a president? And things like that, because you never know as much as the places that we're going to that it seems like they know about us and the US. With the local language, knowing how to say hello, say goodbye, thank you, ask for directions, order food or drinks, ask if they speak English or another language. This can be really helpful, for you to have a better way to navigate kind of getting around locally. You're representing the US, your university, SSA, and yourself when you're abroad. So you want to put your best foot forward, especially for yourself. I find that anywhere I go, if I lead with, greeting them and just asking, wherever I am, whether it's Greece or somewhere I don't speak the language, asking them, do you speak English? And then kind of changing. People are very gracious and are eager to help you if they can. Really also practicing relaxed alertness. This is a term that I stole from a previous colleague, but be aware of yourself, your surroundings, your possessions. You do not need to be on edge 24/7, concerned about someone taking your purse 24 hours of the day. But just being aware of yourself, having this relaxed kind of awareness of where you are, what's going on, is going to help you maintain that safety. Tell others where you're going, travel in groups, do not travel alone. Of course, this doesn't mean you can't go to your classes independently and you can't, go to the grocery store, but more so when you're going out, especially in the dark at night, late hours, make sure that you're traveling with groups and your other SSA friends. And just as we said before, don't be afraid to ask for help, ask for advice. SSA, we are here to help you. The local staff in your site, your resident director, are there to make sure that you have the best experience possible, and everyone wants to kind of share the beauty of their country and their city with you. So ask them for help and they will make sure to. And last but not least, we just kind of want to normalize the travel mishaps because it happens. It's okay to make mistakes. We are not all perfect. We do not all know how to travel through every single airport, go on every single public transit system. I absolutely have been lost in so many countries, in so many cities, both around the US and abroad. And I'm here. You can always find yourself. There are so many ways to problem solve. So whether your phone has died or you don't know where you are or what's going on, take a step back, breathe, figure out what can you deal with right now, what can wait for your attention, and what do you need? Take it one step at a time, really break it down. Make sure if right now all you can do is go report that something got lost to the police station or to contact someone at SSA, let them know, oh, hey, I missed my bus, I'm going to be late for class or something like this. Just make sure you're communicating and kind of leaning on the resources that you have. We're here to assist you in, all things that we can. So please lean on us. Personally, I have had a few fun kind of mishaps. All of them have ended up okay. When I was studying abroad, I traveled to Vatican City and I lost my debit card right outside of where the Pope lives. Nothing happened. I shut the card down that day. I was able to call someone in the US who had access to my banking account info and they could shut the card down. So nothing ever happened. We were all okay. I've also left my key to my housing in a restaurant on the first night of my study abroad program and got lost in my city in the dark with other classmates on the program who were all new. Things happen. So just know that it's okay to make a mistake. You will find yourself at the end of the tunnel, and it really is going to help build you a lot of great problem solving skills and a firm head on your shoulders.
Absolutely. I absolutely echo everything that Jenna just shared. Traveling is an adventure, and that means that it has its ups and downs. And ultimately, what I always like to tell myself is the downs are character building. In the moment, you might be stressing out a little bit, but after that, you're going to be like, dang, I figured that out all by myself in a foreign country where I'm not fluent in the language. Like, that's awesome. Or even, as Jenna's sharing, it is a funny story to share, down the line. Stuff happens, and we're here to help you with it. We're never gonna, I'm not here to minimize the difficulty of certain situations. However, I do want to remind you that mishaps are a part of the process, and they're going to make you stronger ultimately and a better traveler in the aftermath.
Yeah, and someday you'll laugh at them like us.
Yep.
But that's really all we have for you today. I know that Molly shared a question earlier about getting to the airport. If anyone else has any other questions, feel free to raise your hand or just unmute and ask them. That's what we're here for.
While other people are thinking about their questions, I'll go ahead and answer Molly's question about arriving to the airport. Generally, for international flights, we recommend 3 hours in advance, just because you often have to check your bag. There may be lines. There may be long lines at TSA, especially those evening flights tend to have quite longer lines. And you just don't want to risk anything happening, especially if you're in a larger city. Traffic to the airport, you want to leave plenty of time so that process goes by as smoothly as possible. Any other questions? We would love to answer anything that you all are thinking of.
Okay, I think we're good.
Feel free to email Jenna any of your questions as well. Her email is listed here. Or again, I'm sure that all of you have been, if you are already accepted to our programs, I'm sure you have already been in contact with our student services advisors, in which case you can absolutely email them any of your questions. But hopefully this was helpful and you learned some new things and have some new apps downloaded on your phone.
Yeah,
well, if you have more questions.
Yeah. Well, I think with that, I'll stop the recording, and thank you all so much for joining us today. We hope this was helpful as you prepare to go abroad. But yes, as always, don't be a stranger. We're here to help you and make sure that your study abroad is the time of your life.